This, my friends, is the brand new, absolutely stunning Volvo EX90. It replaces the XC90 and is fully electric, has up to 496 horsepower, will do 0 to 60 in about 5.7 seconds, comes with 30 different sensors, has 300 miles of range and 250 kilowatt hour of charging, and you know what that means, 10 to 80% in about 30 minutes. It goes on sale here in the US in 2024 with a starting price of around $80,000. Now that's a pricey Volvo, but you get a lot of tech wrapped in a stunning body for that money. And in this video, I'm gonna let you know why I think this is one of the best looking SUVs on the market today, and also why the new EX90 is a little bit creepy. And now a word from today's sponsor, Established Titles. Established Titles is a very fun and unique way to preserve the woodlands of Scotland, but at the same time help global reforestation efforts. It's a project based on an old Scottish customs where landowners are referred to as lords or ladies. In my case, I decided to dedicate my plot of Scottish land to my cat Rosie, and she'll be referred to as Lady Rosie from now on. And they even sent out this proclamation officially made out to Lady Rosie. Now if you wanted, you could even change your name officially to Lord or Lady and get it on your credit cards or plane tickets, for example. Title Packs gives you at least 1 square foot of dedicated land on a private estate in Edelston, Scotland, and an official certificate with a crest. Your certificate features a unique plot number where you can see the exact location of your land. What I think is even more impressive is that Established Titles works together with global charities One Tree Planted and Trees for the Future to support global reforestation efforts. So with every order, they plant 1 tree. Established Titles also sells couple packs that come with adjoining plots of land. And guess what? The first 200 people to purchase a title pack using my link will be effectively right next to mine. So depending on how many of you decide to become a lady or a lord, we could potentially carve out our own little kingdom in Scotland. I think this makes for a unique last-minute gift or maybe even a Christmas present. Established Titles is currently running a massive Black Friday sale. Plus, if you use the code BEMBLY, you get 10% off your order. So go to establishedtitles.com/Bembly to get 10% off your order. You get your own little square foot of Scottish land. You can call yourself a lord or a lady, and you also help support the channel. Thanks to Established Titles for sponsoring this video. Let's have a look at this design here. Up here we have the also stunning XC90, which I think is also one of the best looking SUVs on the market. Very stately, very clean design, and very Scandinavian with a few key lines. You can see, for example, details like this. You have this trim piece in the front end. You have this line then continues into the side and then into the rear end. So we have a lot of line flow going around this design, and the proportions for the new EX90 is very similar to the XC90. It gets a little bit wider, but the wheelbase is still the same as the XC90. Turning radius is about 1 foot smaller than the XC90. And look at what they did here. They kept the same type of proportions, because why change something that works so well? I'm going to show you the proportions, how they managed to get it so perfect when we look at the side view in just a second. But you can see that it's clearly EV. It's been EVized, you could say, by having the front end all covered up, as you can see right here. And what's really cool about these headlights, I've said before that I think Audi is ahead of the game when it comes to headlight design, but I think Volvo actually took the #1 place now when it comes to headlight and light technology, because you see these things in here. The Thor's hammer in the middle of the headlight, then going into the lower part as well. By the way, this reminds me a little bit of the Cadillac CT5 treatment of the headlight, where you have a piece of body panel covering up what looks to be a continuous line of LED. You have this bridge right here, very similar to the Cadillac design. But these things right here, these LEDs in the headlight, they actually work as almost like eyelids, which is pretty cool. So at daytime, you have only the daytime running lights lit up like we have here in the picture. But when it gets dark out, these actually open up and split to reveal the main headlights of the car, which is crazy. I wonder how expensive this part will be to replace if it ever breaks. Probably pretty pricey, I would say. But the graphics of the front end look still very Volvo-ish, because now we have the logo and the typical diagonal line that you have right here. It's not framed by anything specific, so it feels like it takes up more visual real estate when you look at the car. And you also have the logo in combination with the Thor's hammer, creating this super strong brand identity for Volvo, in addition to the overall Scandinavian design philosophy, which is to keep things very simple. You can see how they simplified the design by removing, for example, these trim pieces here. They wanted to have the body as flush as possible to get as much range as possible, and I think they did a fantastic job doing that. So let's have a look at the side view before we look at the rear and also the interior. Last but not least. So here we have the XC90 up top, the EX90 in the bottom. You can see just how similar the proportions are. As I said, the wheelbase is exactly the same. You have 22-inch wheels on the EX90 with a cover that covers up the bolts and also reduces drag. You can take them off and reveal the wheel underneath those if you want to. But look at the simplicity here. We still have the same key lines as we have in the XC90, but it's been removed. The trim pieces have been removed further to create a very flush design. You can see that another detail is the door handles, having pretty traditional door handles in the XC90, but in the new EX90 they sit flush with the body, which I think also adds to the elegance of this design. I love this roofline of Volvo, and I love these proportions of the EX90. I'm really happy that they decided to keep a typical ICE proportion SUV for the EX90 and not stretch out the greenhouse further forward and create this bubble design, which they very well could have done to increase the interior space, but instead they kept it stylish. And I think the EVs right now, the SUV EVs, the Tesla Model X and the Mercedes and the BMW, they have a lot to work on when it comes to design, specifically now when we have this gorgeous machine as a big EV SUV coming out in 2024. Another line I love about the Volvo is this line right here. You have the greenhouse line and then dipping up, just going up a little bit in the very end, creating a very unique design for this, and it looks sporty in the back end as well. Looking at the side view from a design standpoint and proportions, this image right here shows exactly why I love this design. Because just have a look at this. How cool is this? If you want to create a beautiful car design, you use science and math, and that's exactly what Volvo did. You have a key line in the bottom, you have this shoulder line being a key line as well, and another shoulder right here, I would say, also being key line. But look at how all the angles kind of stems from this point up in the ceiling, going down and creating the angles for all these elements that we have in the car. I think it's just a gorgeous way to design a car, and that's something that you don't really think of when you see a car. You think of an object of it being beautiful, but you don't really know why, and this just breaks it down, the science behind a good car design. Very well done by Volvo. Now looking at the rear end, I think this is the most interesting view of the new EX90, because I love how they transformed the old XC90 graphics into a more modern take while still simplifying everything. You see, we have a dip here, for example, in this angle in the old XC90, but I think they thought, why do we need this dip? Is it really necessary to have it there? And instead they created a straight line with LEDs connecting right here, and you also have a straight line in the bumper and a straight base line for the rear end graphics, in addition to this straight line up here at the top of the graphics. And what I love about this treatment of the details that sit inside the graphics is that we have two different styles. We have some dots of LEDs in the top part, but they're not connected in any way like we have in the old XC90 right here, which I also think is a beautiful approach to rear end graphic design. But here we have these dots, and then we have an LED, solid LED, making up the lower part of the graphics, and it makes it look more interesting to look at when you have different types of styling when it comes to the details of the lighting itself. Looking at this car from this angle, it could very well be an internal combustion engine in this car, and I kinda was hoping that there would be a version with you know, Volvo creating a V8. Not very likely, but they did have an XC90 V8 back in the day, so it would be cool to see something like that. The reason why I think this is a little creepy is all the sensors that we have in the interior. The thing that they said in the presentation was that this is the first car that can that senses your mood, if you're distracted, if you're sleepy, in a completely new way. It takes it to a whole new level because it can even sense your breathing. I'm thinking, how far do we want to stretch this type of technology? It's really good for safety. It's going to sense if you're feeling tired, if there is something 200, I think it was 250 meters ahead of you, if there is some object that you can't see, and the car will adapt its speed accordingly. But still, they say that this is one big step towards full autonomous driving. And me personally, I don't want autonomous driving. I still want to be able to drive my car myself. Autonomous driving would be cool to have maybe on the highway or on your daily commute. But even for me, if I were commuting somewhere daily, I would still want to be in control of the car. All these safety features are really great, but it's starting to get a little creepy in my opinion. So look at the XC90 interior right here and have a look at the brand new EX90 at the bottom. I love the XC90 design. I think it's a super clean design. The only thing I would change is probably the implementation of this area. I don't think the lines and the outline for these graphic features, and the vents, the screen, it doesn't really fit the surface that it sits on. It looks like it's a different type of styling in relation to everything else that's going on in here. But we do have a nice house for the gauge cluster and a digital gauge cluster in here. Perfectly done in my opinion. I love these colors as well. Looking at the EX90 here, this is very much inspired by the Polestar 3. As you can see, super similar interiors. You have a 14.5 inch iPad slapped right here in the middle. It looks decently integrated, and we have this light wood. This wood, by the way, is backlit at night, which I think looks really nice. And this piece, all the details are made of glass and metal, so there's not a lot of plastic in here. But I'm not so sure about this integration here. What I would like to do, I'm sure you know what I'm gonna say now because I've said it 10,000 times before, that would be to integrate something like this, have the display, create a little house for the display right here so we have some coziness going on in here. If I were to pick between these two to sit in and to feel homey and comfortable and cozy in, it would still be the old XC90 design. So what I would like to do is kind of take a house like this and apply it onto this, sort of like this. Look at this, we just fixed it by adding some house around the gauge cluster, and boom, we have a much more cozy looking interior. Overall, I'm really excited for the EX90, and I think seeing it in person is going to blow my mind when it comes to styling, cleanliness, and proportions and line flow of this design. So very well done, Volvo.